everybody, and welcome to Momledge, a show where real moms discuss real issues. And with me today are three moms to talk about something that's really on the hearts and minds of all of us right now, which is COVID, the classroom, and our children. So I'm going to start by letting everybody introduce themselves, and then we're just going to dive right in. Kelly, why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Kelly Mano. I live in the Midwest near St. Louis, Missouri. I have three kids in 5th, 7th, and 10th grade, and they are returning to 5-day-a-week in-person learning next week.
Thanks. Tina.
Hi, I'm Tina Sayers, and I also live near St. Louis, Missouri. And I have two children. One is in 8th grade, and one is a senior in high school.
Kate.
Hi, my name is Kate. I'm in upstate New York. I live in Saratoga Springs. I have three kids. I have a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old who's going into kindergarten, and a 7-year-old who's going into 2nd grade. And we are going 5 days a week in school.
I'm sorry, I forgot to say that my kids are doing at-home virtual learning.
Yeah,
sorry.
We're virtual. Yeah, so I'm Allison Neerman, and I have a 7th grader, a freshman, and a senior. And right now we're all virtual. But I think my freshman will at some point be hybrid and then back to school, but it keeps going back and forth. So yeah, so we're going to just kind of dive right in right now. And everybody talk to me about how you feel about your school's current situation.
I'll go first. My kid's school district seems to be the last district standing in our area as far as going back in person. Part of me is really excited and really proud of our school district and what they've done to make things safe. And part of me feels like we're going into the world's largest science experiment. So we're going to find out one way or another.
That's awesome. What about you guys?
I feel the same exact way. I'm excited that my kids are getting back to some sense of normalcy. I'm excited to get them out of my house. And, I think the school, nobody wants our kids to be sick and to be hurt, and they're doing the best they can. But we'll see, we'll give it a go. So,
yeah.
And as for me, I was, at first our school district was planning to do a hybrid where they would go back 2 days a week and then they'd be home the other 3 days. And I was really hesitant about that because I felt like I'm with you guys on the science experiment thing. And I kind of felt like, why have we been so careful since March to be isolating and, not being around people, just to then throw our kids in a situation and putting them on the front lines, and especially the teachers, where you never know if a teacher themselves is going to be high risk or one of their family members, So I just kind of thought that wasn't really fair to ask of them or our children if we weren't 100% sure that we could do this safely. So
yeah, for sure. So for those of us who are virtual, we'll talk about how it's working, and then we'll kind of talk about how it's going to work with you guys going back as well. So I'll start by telling you my experience so far virtual. So for me, all three of our kids basically stay in their room all day. And we have kids who, we're also two working parents who are down here. So it's a lot of video conferences and a lot of me texting my kid going, do you have earbuds? Why don't you have earbuds? I don't need to sit in your theology class. Please put in earbuds. And then another one who I'm sure is, doing virtual school. I'm also sure that during the breaks there might be some TikToking happening. So I'm not 100% sure, and then I have a senior who's virtual and can't stand it. She is missing out on advanced math classes where if you're in the middle of trying to do trigonometry and the video glitches, then you probably missed the lesson. And then you're Googling it, which this isn't Google University. So, and she misses her senior year, right? Homecoming and all of that. And she's in super advanced AP classes without the use of a studio, but those portfolios are going to be presented to colleges. So it's just been a very tough, for us, it's been really tough. I mean, I agree with Tina that, like, of course, we want everybody to be safe and we don't want to be responsible for any bad thing happening from anybody. But I just feel that the virtual in my house, you know, it would be best if we were back. That's my opinion right now. So how's the virtual working in your house, Tina? What's the logistics of it?
Right. So logistically, my husband and I are both working from home. We're all using Zoom pretty frequently throughout the day. It's been okay. We haven't had any major issues with that. Again, our kids are both in their rooms for the majority of the day, but really the day goes from about 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So it's not like they're in there for 10 hours, thankfully. And then I would say that because my daughter's a senior, Allison, your daughter and mine are in the same class at the same school. And so this is, I think, the time when she realized how much she's getting gypped, you know, with, like you said, homecoming and just even things like going back to school and discussing when are they going to get their senior pictures done. And it's going to be so different how they're running it, how they already ordering caps and gowns, and are we even going to have the ceremony? And, you know, so she's just in prom, and she's also a theater kid. And so, you know, it's really hard to do theater shows and get
Virtually.
Yeah, right. And she does a lot of the costuming and stuff.
Cry.
So that's been a challenge. I think she's starting to realize how much she stands to lose.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go.
I'm glad to see you guys validating your older kids' feelings, because I see a lot of parents, or maybe it's the older generation, who are like, oh, too bad you're missing your prom. People are dying. And it's like, they're 17. What do you want them to care about? Of course they're going to care about their prom. That's like, or their softball season, or whatever they've waited for.
Yeah,
that's right.
I hate seeing parents invalidate kids' feelings because it's not a real world problem.
Still
When
a big deal, though.
they're
Yeah.
17, that is their real world problem.
Right.
Like, they're
Right.
not supposed to worry about global pandemics. They're supposed to be pissed off that they can't go to prom.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't, let
Well,
them feel those feelings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask you guys too, Kate and Kelly, like, when you go back to school, or if you've gone back to school, what are the logistics there? How are your schools handling it?
So for us, we are strongly encouraged as parents to drive the kids. They've reduced it by an hour every day. So drop off is just about 10 o'clock, pickup is 3 p.m. The kids wear masks all day except for lunch and recess. They all sit 6 feet apart. Lunch for most kids is in the classroom. You know, I have little kids and they're going on the playground, but they're supposed to stay 6 feet apart and they're not allowed to go in the equipment. So
Run around in a circle with yourself.
Did your
don't touch
school
anybody,
say,
stay far, far away.
did
So
your school say why they're randomly taking an hour off the day? Like, does COVID not, like, get people between 9 and 10?
I don't know. I think for all of us, we're very frustrated because I work, my children's father works. Like, how do you function and get stuff done? Even if you work from home,
Yeah.
you've got to drive your kids to school, then you've got to get home, log on, try to do some work. 2:30, I got to go pick up my kids.
Yep.
I think they're trying to stagger between the drop off and the buses. But by the time everybody gets to school, my daughter's in kindergarten. She gets to school at 10. She has lunch at 10:30. I mean,
Oh gosh.
What?
Right.
10:30.
So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. They keep it very loose, and every plan is proposed as we are changing as we go. And I'm trying to be very flexible. And
Yeah.
what can you do? So
What
So
are you
my
guys
kid-
doing? Yeah.
My kids go back next week. The plan is that they are to wear masks at all times. I personally, I would love to see them wear masks in the hallway and when they're moving, but if their desks are 6 feet apart and they're sitting doing their work, I'm hoping that maybe if things go well, that they'll let the kids take the mask off just at their desk.
Mhm.
If you need to get up and sharpen a pencil or get up and use the bathroom, then put your mask back on. But they've shown us pictures of the classroom. Everyone is spread apart. And so, that's really what we're doing, is just keeping the kids apart. I think they're doing like recess slots. And I'm not really sure how they're going to do lunch. It's all very up in the air. I'm just so grateful that the kids are going back that I'll literally do anything they say. And, Tina brought up a point about the teachers, about these people who have to return and be exposed and things like that. But I'm friends with a lot of teachers. I love our teachers. So this is not meant in a negative way, but if you don't have someone high risk at home, it's time to go back to work. The rest of the world has gone back to work. So teachers included.
Rest of the world.
It is time to go back to work. Again, if you're not comfortable with it as a teacher, take a sabbatical year, do something else, do whatever you want. But if you're a teacher and that's your calling, it's time to go back to work, because the rest of the world has. I didn't want to go back to work. My husband didn't want to go back to work. My mom didn't want to go back to work. We all had to go back to work. So I know the teachers I know are just thrilled because they want to get back to what they love to do as well.
Yeah.
I will say, in Tina's defense on that one, my heart does break for the teachers, because I do feel like, yes, we do need to all get back to work. And I'm grateful I've been back since June. I feel some of the older teachers are uncomfortable going back, and they're being forced to go back. And teachers are in a different situation where they're in a small building with a lot of people. I think it's tough. I feel my heart breaks for everybody, but I feel for the teachers that are uncomfortable, but maybe have a year left before retirement.
Right.
They need to go back to get their benefits. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, something like that, the schools should definitely consider an early retirement plan. Like I said, some kind of sabbatical year for teachers who maybe they have a kiddo who's got an immune problem, and they go into a contract with the teacher where it's like, hey, you'll be guaranteed a job if you come back within 365 days, something like that, to where we are protecting the teachers who are worried, but at the same time, the ones who have healthy immune systems and healthy kids, like, we're all worried. Like,
Well, I think, like, maybe let's also have a protection around our teachers. If you don't feel comfortable going back, then we will provide a year. Maybe you get a year paid. Maybe you get something for that time that you're off, to protect yourself and your family. And then we'll also provide some incentives maybe for teachers who are coming in. I don't know how it would work, but I definitely think if there are safeguards and benefits being put in place for other individuals, then maybe we should have considered the same thing. I mean, the government didn't ask me, but
but they should have. No, I definitely think that those are interesting ideas and valid points. And I certainly see that there are many sides to this argument, but I am going to propose one more. And that is that, so I'm a professional singer, and one of my jobs is that I teach voice to university students. And so we have been doing a lot of research over the summer, ever since March, but then especially when school got out and everyone was thinking, how are we going to come back from this? There's been a lot of discussion about whether or not it's safe to sing together in person. And so we've listened to a lot of doctors, a lot of people that research how viruses like this are transmitted through aerosols. And the best analogy I've heard of this is that if it's like aerosols are like watching somebody smoking or vaping, and how you can see those particles kind of coming into the air, but they linger in the air. Okay. There's probably a bunch of debate about how long the virus can survive in that state, et cetera, et cetera. But what they're basically saying is that an enclosed space with little or no ventilation, or the same ventilation system from room to room, those aerosols can build up over time. And it doesn't take a long time. So it's like, imagine if you're in a classroom and they're all smoking, how soon until everyone smells smoke, right? Or feels like they're in a smoky environment. Unfortunately, a lot of schools, like where some of the classrooms that my kids are in and some of the classrooms that my university has, in fact, most of them, they don't have windows that open. So all of the ventilation is enclosed.
They're in a classroom with windows that don't open?
Oh, absolutely. There's not a window in my building at work at
That's
the university
another
that open.
episode. Yeah.
Right.
That's terrifying.
It
God.
is.
Terrifying.
That is
Yeah,
terrifying.
but you see kind of where, to
Yeah.
me, it feels like we're sending them to this location where the aerosols are all trapped. And there's discussions of the only way to then kill the virus through the ventilation system is using the UV, I forgot the name of it, but there's a UV thing that they can put in the ducts that as the air passes through it, it zaps and kills the viruses.
Yeah.
Well, they're extremely expensive. Our schools are not going to be able to afford that. So anyway, all this to say, they have said that when you're singing or talking loudly or all of this, that's like one of the most dangerous activities you can do. So when you say people have to go back to work, I don't have my choir gig because there are no concerts, because even if we had a concert in a safe way, who's going to come watch it? My operas I was going to be in were canceled this year. But I am still teaching at the university, but I'm doing it virtually because I'm like, I have not given all this up so that I can just be in a classroom and get it from a kid in college. And, who's living on campus in the dorms and eating in the cafeteria and all that kind of stuff. So for me too, they don't even know, like, even though you may not suffer, even if the virus doesn't affect you very severely, there is some evidence that it can cause scarring in your lungs, which as a singer would be another issue. So there's just all sorts of things that it's not that I'm trying to be paranoid, but I'd rather err on the side of being safe than sorry. And so that's another argument to, like to you about the teachers going back. And I will say, I think teachers have gone back. I don't think they had a summer. They have been spending their summer trying to figure out how am I going to do virtual lesson plans? How am I going to do inline learning if it's only some of my, they have been through the ringer. And I don't think we can put it on them whether or not it's right to go back.
Yeah.
Because not all of us are going back.
Yeah. So I will ask this, because we're all working moms. How have you been balancing the work and the school and all of that, even when they go back, with masks? And at any given point, there could be something, and then, Kelly, in your schools, somebody's going to get it, and they'll most likely shut it down, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So how have you guys been balancing work, and how have your employers been?
It's been a complete circus.
Yeah.
A complete circus. There's no parenting handbook for this.
No.
And for people, it's funny how the people who have the loudest opinions about what should happen in moving forward are the people who, one, don't have kids, or two, their jobs weren't affected by this.
Yeah.
So sure, keep preaching when this did not affect you at all. Meanwhile, we have kids in the middle of mental crisis, everything else.
Yeah.
And I just think that a lot of us, especially the four of us in here, are in the same page of like, we need to move forward, but not just throw them to the wolves. So one step at a time. In our area, we have done somewhat of a soft, like, reopening of stuff. Like, we went to pools this summer.
Yeah.
The pools opened in June, and they started at like 25% capacity. And it was great because we went and it was like wide open. And then after a while, then the numbers weren't rising from any pool cases. So they went to 50%, So the school thing, I fully expect to be a one step at a time thing. Will they make it all the way to Christmas break? No idea. Yeah. And if they don't, I'm going to listen to whatever, the smart people say to do. But, I want them to go back. I'm ready. I'm ready for this big science experiment, as we joke about it. I'm,
all done. I
do say that as a parent of healthy kids with healthy immune systems. I understand not everybody is in that situation. For me and my family, I trust my kids' immune systems. I trust the schools and the things that they're going to put in place. And, I'm looking forward to seeing if we can battle back a little bit about, against this.
Mm-hmm. I drove by one of those pools where you live where you live, on the way to the one place that was open for sports this summer. And it was like watching a 1985, it was, I was like, well, there's no,
it was awesome.
I was like, they didn't get the memo. I was like, they're definitely, I don't know why I had to drive 10 minutes, to have a completely different experience. I
You
mean,
crossed the river.
like you cannot walk out of your house where I live without like a mask on. I mean, you can't sneeze without, you know, like a scene where you think somebody's going to just jump out of the window and wrap you in bubble wrap. But you know what I mean?
All summer.
But you go across the river and you're like, wait a minute, you're like open. Like, what? Why is it not over here? So yeah,
all summer.
Yeah, fantastic. We have pools in our neighborhood, and you know, you could go, but it was limited, and they took our chairs away. So like, what's the fun in that? I'm like, great! I can't wait to go sit on some concrete. That sounds relaxing.
Terrible. No, we had chairs. It was nice. It was like 25% capacity. I mean, we went plenty of times. Nobody got sick. I haven't seen. Shoot, you know what's in those public pools? Way worse stuff than Corona, probably.
Yes, it may have helped their immune system.
Right.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Like,
let me tell you, there's so much chlorine in those pools, it didn't stand a chance.
Feel it. Yeah. So, Kate, you're working and you have little ones. How are you balancing that?
So I am a hairstylist, but I'm an independent contractor. So I'm very lucky. I can be flexible as I have to be. I'm also divorced. So my kids are with me half the time and they're with their dad half the time. Mm-hmm. So when they're with their dad, I work. But anticipating that we won't be in school for very long, I've lined up a couple college students, some younger teachers, that in the case that my kids are home, I'm going to try to hire some like a nanny / educator to tutor my kids, because the fact that I'm alive and that my 7-year-old is still alive is a miracle, because we were going to kill each other last year. So, you know, that's kind of my preparation plan. Homeschooling for us was a challenge. I had a first grader boy who's all boy. I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old who were watching TV in the other room. It was a 45-minute meltdown to get 10 minutes of work done.
Yeah.
It was very challenging. And I have to work. I enjoy my job. I enjoy working. And I can't give that up. So, you know,
can't
get
give
some
it up.
ultimate plans lined up and hope for the best.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah.
So, does anybody's kids have a 504 or IEP? Yeah, same here. So how are they, you guys are going back. Were you virtual in the spring?
Yes.
How did they handle accommodations?
Well, so my son has a 504, but it's for a food allergy.
Oh, okay.
So that was fine, obviously, in the spring. Going back for us is kind of, I feel good about it. So my son is anaphylactic and he's contact reactive, so he's highly allergic. But with all these new CDC regulations, it's kind of the best thing for us, because everybody has to be extra clean and washing hands. The only caveat was that they were eating in the classroom. In his 504, we have a dairy-free classroom. So his class will eat in the gymnasium.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Children with allergies will eat in the gym at desks 6 feet apart. So.
Yeah. I think it's funny how many people are like, well, now we're washing our hands and sanitizing.
I know.
I'm like,
what were we doing before?
Gross. Like,
gross.
what were we doing before? We've been doing that. I mean, they'll ask, like, what do you guys think in your area about the reporting of cases? And kind of a follow-up to that is, you know, how are we going to what will it take to get back to normal? Two very heavy questions.
So one, the media is full of crap. I've worked in media for 19 years. They will inflate stories. They will use fake photos of beaches that are crowded. They're not, and they will not be held accountable for it. So the media has been wholly irresponsible with all of this.
Yeah.
As far as scare tactics and not reporting things accurately. And again, I've been in plenty of newsrooms, so I see them sending out emails saying, we want to hear from people who are perfectly healthy and died from COVID. Like, they're not telling you the good stories. They want, you know, the what they say in news is, if it bleeds, it leads. That means if the more horrible the story, the further up it goes in the headline, right? And so I have been following the CDC guidelines. I have been doing my own math when they're saying things like, I live in a very large county. And so when they're like, St. Charles County has blah, blah, blah cases, and that's 80,000 more than this county. Well, they're half our size, you know, and so they can say anything and make it sound a lot scarier. So is this scary? Yes, it absolutely is. And we should be careful. A lot of the precautions that we're taking, I would love to see all year round. I think it's great that like the grocery store workers have that, like that plexiglass there.
Yeah.
I mean, leave that there. Like, let's keep wearing masks always in the winter, because I don't want to get the flu and crap, you know? So washing our hands longer, all good stuff. But in general, okay, I have ADD, so now I forgot what the question was, but I think I was answering it.
You are. Keep going.
That just,
Yeah.
the people that are gripping to the news every day and like listening to what they say and actually trusting the crap that comes out of these journalists' mouths are the ones who they need to step away from.
Just have to be very cautious about what I'm believing and what I'm allowing myself to believe, and how I then, of course, present, you know, how I handle that with our kids who, you know, they just turn on any app and it's all over the place. And it affects the way that they, of course, interpret and handle it, right? So it's just been very interesting to me to think like, well, when will we get through it and out of it, and like where's the light at the end of this tunnel? Because yeah, I mean, that's what I think about it. So
you know, I kind of feel like you have to be really careful who you listen to. You know, there are good journalists out there too, and I think the more we can follow independent journalism and or go right to the source, right to the professionals doing the research, go to places that are not working for profit, but, you know, NPR can be sometimes better than Channel 7, you know, that kind of thing. So I think we have to be really careful who we are listening to, and that we're trying to hear both sides of the arguments, so that we can make more informed decisions for ourselves. I think what drives me crazy is that people just take whatever they hear at face value, don't do any of their own research, and then come to conclusions based on hype or what was spoon-fed to them by people, like you're saying. So I'm not really a like conspiracy theorist at all, and I don't believe that there's 100% right, 100% wrong in any of the information that we get. But I do think that it's worth taking the time to look it over and make our own informed decisions and do it. And at the end of the day, I think we just have to do what feels right for us in our situations, and honor that other people are going to feel different in their situations.
Yes.
You know, I read an article recently that was so like dead on to me, that said, why is it so much harder now than it was in March when this started? Like, why do I feel so much worse about this whole situation now? And they said, because when it started, everyone's attitude was, we're in this together. We're going to get through this. We can do this. And now it's kind of every man for himself. Like, you're an idiot if you think this, and you're an idiot if you think that, and how dare you, and blah, 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 you know. And I just feel like, guys, we're kind of missing a really important lesson that we could be learning right now, which is just love each other. Like, we're all in this. We may be experiencing it differently. We may be reacting differently. But the reality is, this is probably the most unifying thing that has happened to us in our lifetimes.
Right. And that's part of the reason I got off Facebook, was all the moms judging each other.
Right.
At our school, I should have mentioned, at our school, we had the option of going 5 days a week or virtual. I thought that was the best plan ever.
Yes.
My very best friend is keeping her kids home. I have no problem with that. I support her 100%.
Right.
But that's not for our family. So why are we judging each other? Because like you said, you know, I love when the celebrities are like, we're all in the same boat. It's like, no, we're not. You're on a freaking yacht. We are not in the same boat. Like,
mine's a rowboat with holes in it.
We're in the same storm, but we have very different boats.
Well, you know, my sister is a teacher. She's a special ed teacher in Washington State.
That's my brother.
How funny. So in Washington State, well, at least in her county, I asked her, are you guys going back like virtually, or are you going back in person? And she said, we won't be going back in person until there are no new cases for 2 weeks in our county.
Wow.
Like, that is what the county, right. But here's the thing. I thought, that's brilliant, because it puts the onus on the parents and the families and the community that's saying we want our kids back in school. Well, then wear your flippin' mask.
Yeah.
You know, like, do what we have to do. Stop arguing about whether it's taking your rights away and just put it on. Let's get control of this thing. And then your kids can go back to school. Like, to me, that took so much pressure off of the teachers and the administrators to have to be the bad guys. And they're not going to win, because whatever they decide, someone's going to be mad, you know?
It's tough, because if you have that, we have a district next to us, it's not going back till October. So essentially they're using my district and others around as guinea pigs to see what happens. But yeah, we're very lucky.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. It's tough too. You think if you have 2 working parents that they have to go to work and they can't work from home, and they can't afford a nanny, and what do you do in that position? So for the schools to do, like Kelly's school, we have a choice. You can send them 5 days, or you can do virtual, or you can do a hybrid. Some people have to make the choice to send their kids, because otherwise they're not going to pay their mortgage.
Right.
So that it leads into a rabbit hole of so many different situations. And so our school is K through 3 can be in school full time. 4 through 12 is 2 days in, 3 days out. I have friends that work full time. Some kids are going 5 days a week, but then their 4th grader has to be home. So do you leave your 4th grader home to like self-educate? There's no way. My kids wouldn't do it. So it's a tough one. It's a rabbit hole of so many different challenges that we're all facing. And I am so with you ladies on solidarity and supporting each other. And do you need me to educate your child on Monday and you take mine on Tuesday? And women will figure it out, because that's what we do.
Earlier, what's the end of this, and will we ever get back to normal? And I honestly don't know. Like, I've thought so many times, when do we get to just move on? And I'm starting to think, first of all, ever since it started, I thought there's no way we're going to be doing anything like normal until January at the earliest. But now I think it's going to be later. And furthermore, I don't know if it's ever going to go back to what we knew, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're going to be locked up all the time or, isolated. But I do think that, people in Asia, when they get sick, they wear a mask. That's normal to them. That is like, they have a cold and they have to go to the grocery store, they put a mask on, because their culture, their culture is, we do that to protect others, right? They kind of care for their neighbor. And so we, in our freedom, don't always think of doing that kind of thing, but maybe from now on we will.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what this is going to teach us. And maybe we're going to keep the plexiglass up in the line,
one another.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll continue to wash our hands and use Lysol shots.
Let's hope.
I mean, heaven forbid. Because I will say, so we did do a self-quarantine in our house, and I've never related more to Rapunzel than I did in that moment. Because I was like, I just want, I started singing every Disney song, like, I just want to be part of your world, and I want to be where the people are, like, let me out. I mean, it was like, and my kids, who are like already in isolation, and several of them who are huggers and need like not daily but like hourly hugs. It was just like them standing there, like, just this, I can't hug. Like, it was hard. So,
and this is much harder for extroverts than it has been for introverts. So we have to keep that in mind.
When you're an extrovert in your room, it's like, I might go crazy. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. So I will ask this. How have you guys as moms been dealing with sort of the emotional and mental health part of it all? We are such givers to our kids, and we just pour and we pour. How have you guys handled it? How is it personally affecting each of you?
It sucks. I think that a lot of times my kids are not getting the best version of me, because they have had, and I'm not getting the best version of them. I have teenagers. Lord help me being quarantined with teenagers. But this is not normal. It is not normal to spend this much time with your, like, kids have a need to be independent and get out from their parents. And it's been really hard mentally. Yeah, I like, there were days when, you know, my mood swings were awful, where I'd be like, this is great, let's play Yahtzee. And then like an hour later, I'd be staring at the wall like, oh yeah, I hate it. Like, you know, my kids never knew what version of me they were getting. When we get back into some kind of normal routine, I'm so excited for them to go back. I'm so excited.
The board game thing was real fun in the beginning until we threw Monopoly away. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we switched to, this is great parenting. We switched to Texas Hold'em real quick. You know what I mean? It was real.
Hey, it could be worse.
Quick. It got real fast. And then that got super competitive.
Against humanity, you know?
Yeah, we didn't go that far. I mean, but in my house with teenagers, it switched. And then that got real competitive and people got mad. And I was like, you know what? This is why we don't play games together. Like families on sitcoms. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Anybody else?
We can do that. Yeah. Indefinitely.
Yeah.
I feel because I have little kids, it was some semblance of normalcy because, you know, I have little kids. We're around each other all the time. I definitely wanted to, you know, explode. Which I think is normal when you have little kids anyway. You go on highs and lows all day long. You're Mary Poppins, and then you're like, put your shoes on! But, you know,
kidding.
We do a lot of bike rides. We had neighbors that we would like, you know, as crazy as it sounds, you know, we'd stay on the lawn and they would ride by and we would like wave from afar. And it's sad and heartbreaking, but they were so excited to see their friends. So, you know, I was never happier and probably a better mom on June 3rd when I got to go back to work. So,
you
know,
leave. Yeah.
I can't imagine living with teenagers.
The balance is hard because I work from home. And so it's interesting because from the work perspective, you know, it's like, are you working? And I'm like, in fact, I'm working more because I'm always on now. And now I'm on both. And so if you're at home working, you feel guilty because your kid is in their class and you feel this you feel this need to make them lunch and be there. And are you doing your math? Like you feel that, but you don't do that because you're working. And because you're working from home, before you know it, it's 7:00 at night and you haven't logged off, you know, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm still here. And your kids are like, stop working, you know? And so it's been a very interesting struggle for sure. Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. That's very similar to my experience because I kind of laughed to myself and I almost posted this on Facebook. So you would have missed it. But I was thinking it only took a week for them to ask me to make lunch for them. Because after, you know, it's like I joke that like when they were babies and I showed up after, you know, a kid would come home and they'd run at me like, you're the milk truck. I'm hungry. Yeah. And now it's when I get home from the grocery store and they run out. What'd you get? You know?
But, I truly did not realize how much my kids eat.
A lot, right?
Well, they eat all day. I'm like, I just fed you like 3 hours ago. Like
grocery bill was so high over COVID.
Yes. So high. Well, and the alcohol.
I was gonna say there's that. We haven't even talked about that.
But like what's funny about that, Kelly, too, is that during COVID when our kids weren't in school, we would wake up in the morning and I'm pretty sure that there was like Animal House frat party that happened in my basement. I was like, this was all clean when I went to basement. Like the kitchen was spotless. The basement was awesome. And then you go downstairs and like a remote is thrown one way. The chairs are upside down. The table's upside down. The whole basement. There's food everywhere. You're like, what happened? And it's because they would like wake up, you know, when I was headed for bed and then spend apparently the whole night partying. Yeah. I don't know. I don't even have a basement back door, but if I did, I'm pretty sure there would have been a cover charge.
That was kind of the fun part of
cover charge.
It's not having a schedule. So my kids actually like, I would hear them like cracking up in the kitchen at like 3 a.m. And I'm well, I'm not going to go yell at them because why should they go to bed? They don't have anything to get up for.
Right. I have to tell you, so learned that kind of dawned on me recently, like last week, was, it used to be that you'd go to work, we'd all go our separate ways, school, work, whatever, and then come home in the evenings, and that was our place of respite, and we could share our day with each other and blow off steam or share our excitement about things and kind of gear up for the next day. And so I started feeling like not only do I never have time alone, I never have that release valve, because now my family is my source of stress and frustration, and because we're always together. And so who do I let off steam with? So I didn't realize how much I was kind of missing that.
Yeah. And the mom guilt that goes with that, because you're
Like,
I have mom guilt, at least, because
I'm
the
like, best of times.
So sorry that you're driving me crazy. Like, just go away, please. Like, Kate's in that moment now, but for me, with older ones, I'm like, I already did this, like all of this together, all of the time. You're all over me needing food all of the time. Like, I already did that. I already was your entertainer. So like, I'm not that. Like, I did that. I had 3 little ones under the age of 4. So like, I'm good. I filled my quota. Now go right.
Now I'm the cruise ship director.
Yeah, you're the cruise ship director. I did that. I put in my time. Yeah, you're there. Sorry. But, and I loved it. Like, I have to admit, like, I loved being the cruise ship director while I was the cruise ship director. But like, now I'm not. So
now you're being asked to do that and steer the boat and make all the meals
and build the boat and know where the boat's going. Like, I don't say this. So just a couple other questions before we wrap up, right? Like, what are you doing, to protect your, like, to keep your sanity? Like, what are you doing? Is anything working? And what advice do you have to other moms to keep your sanity, to be the best version of yourself? Go, Kelly.
Find a hiding spot. So there is, so I found, for one great spot is the laundry room, because nobody ever goes there. Then I learned how to get on my roof. There's one part of my roof that is like a short part, and I can hop up there. Kids have no idea where you are. So that's my advice. Find a hiding spot.
Find that. Yeah.
It also teaches your kids independence, because it's like, unless you're bleeding or have an appendage hanging off, don't come looking for me. Figure it out on your own.
You'll be fine.
If they can't find you, then they will do problem solving skills on their own.
Were you going to say something? I keep saying
so my children, when they go to preschool, they went to our YMCA. So for me, I would drop them off and go work out with my girlfriends. And like that was my release, which I'm not going back to the gym this year. And I actually pulled my 2-year-old out of the preschool because a lot of reasons, but I didn't think that he needed to go. He's 2. He doesn't have to go to school. I actually just bought myself a Peloton for 2 reasons. A, it's a release for me to have a minute alone, just to work out and just get some steam off. But also, as we had talked about, because it's a bike, they can't touch me and jump on me when I'm working out. I'm hoping, like, when I did stuff at home, they want to work out with me, but they're like on top of me, and I'm like, just forget it. Yeah. So I thought if I got on a physical object, they can't climb on with me, and they can leave me alone for a half hour. So we'll see if it happens. I haven't gotten it yet.
Idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. You said something earlier, Kelly, about like the older generations and other generations. What I think is funny is the amount of people that are saying that this is our kids walking uphill in the snow. And it's not. Like, in my opinion, this is not that. This is not, such tough times. This is like bigger deal to me. It's a bigger deal. It has bigger implications and potentially bigger and longer effects on them. So what do you guys think are some of the long-term effects that this could have on our kids?
I think it's going to be tough. I think we're going to see a lot of mental health issues in the next 5 to 10 years. And kind of touching on what you ladies said before, you have these seniors in high school that are missing out on prom. They're missing out on graduation. Their freshman year in college kind of stinks. And they have a right to feel bad for themselves. And the women that had to postpone weddings, like, it's a silly thing to keep yourself safe, but at the same time, it's the big stuff in life. And I think people are going to really be sad and feel bad for themselves in a couple years when it kind of everything calms down and you sit with it. Like, that's not fair that I didn't get to do that, you know. And I think they're valid in that thought process.
Yeah, I feel like when there is a new normal or different normal, Kate, you know, to your point, like there needs to be some grief training almost.
Absolutely.
Like you have to go through the stages, and it's okay to feel that way, you know. But anybody else, before we kind of wrap up, I have one final question. Anybody else have thoughts on long-term effects on kids?
Just checking on your extroverts.
Yeah.
Because this is so hard on them, your social kids. Some of the introverts, they're loving it. Like this is like cool for them. They hated school, they hated going. But you know, the ones who are introverts are, if they don't return to school, they are going to struggle, and they are the ones who will hide their struggle. So if you have kids who are extroverts, just pay really close attention to their behavior and check in with them.
Yeah. So kind of on that note, what do you think as moms are some of the best things we can do to help our kids through this?
To admit that it sucks and not always be like, that's okay, it's going to be fine. Like, no, man, this sucks. Like, I get it. I know why you're so mad. I'm mad too. You know, every day is a new day, and every day is a step closer to things getting back to normal, hopefully. And, you know, I
struggle with my younger children to try really hard in the beginning to not blame everything on COVID. Right. Because I didn't want them to have that anxiety. Well, you can't have your recital because of COVID. You can't go to school because of COVID. So I struggled to find different ways to explain to them, you know, why we can't see our friends and why we can't go to dance class and stuff like that. And, you know, I think they are young and they're, you know, easily impressionable. So I just kind of took the path of like, you know, we're keeping everybody healthy and everybody safe. And if we just wear a mask, then all our friends are healthy and happy, and then we can all go back to school. But we do have to change a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
good for you.
Yeah, I mean, they're little, so they believe what I say. So,
right.
you know, teenagers are difficult, or not difficult. They're different. They watch TV.
They get their own news. Yeah.
They can take in their own thoughts.
And they're old enough to form their own opinions about it. Yeah. Like that's been an interesting, you know, to both of your points, like have your own sort of safeguarded opinion, you know, an output of this for sure. While also recognizing this stinks, this is not fun. Like I get it. And then listening, especially for our older kids, listening to their opinions about it, like allowing them to then tell you and talk about it and say, this is what I think, you know, and kind of validating that, whether you agree with it or not. You know, I think having that really just open conversation about it, I think really helps as well. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think, I don't think I do this well all the time, but I think modeling good behavior, good self-care, good, looking, I mean, I totally agree. Like, it's not that I want to say, let's all put on a happy face and pretend nothing's wrong. It's just part of self-care is saying, yeah, this sucks today. I'm having a really tough day. Yeah. And having to be like, my daughter the other day looked at me and said, are you okay? It's like, I don't think I am today. No, I'm not, but I'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, and I think for me, it's recognizing, like I said, like I'm missing me time. I'm missing having a place to decompress and blow off steam. And so I have to be creative now about how do I find that?
Hiding spot,
right?
The roof.
And hiding spot with wine and Zoom with your friends.
As long as you can get off of the roof.
Right.
Or whatever.
Or else you'll be in the hospital and no one can come see you.
Oh, man. Yeah. I fell off the roof. Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. So great. I really appreciate everybody's time today. Does anybody have any other like thoughts that they just kind of wanted to share?
Just good luck, mamas.
Yeah.
Good luck. We're all in this together. I think is
together,
what is really
support
important.
Each other.
Support each other. Yeah. And be there for one another. Yeah. All right. Well, I really appreciate it, guys.